Hey everyone, it's me, Chris from Body Nova Fitness Coaching, and today we're going to talk about body recompositioning. I'm going to set up the ultimate guide for you to get your body recomposition transformation here. We're going to dig into this, and I'm going to provide you with some reasons why certain things should be that way, because if we want to get the most success from our program, we want to make sure that we follow some of these tips here. Now, at the end, I'll also give you an example of a starting point, one for female average weight, average U.S. weight, which is 169 pounds, and then I'll also give you one for the male whose average weight is about 190 or 200 pounds. So first off, we got to start with the basics, okay? What exactly is body recompositioning, okay? So for those of you that don't know, it is when you try to transform your body by losing fat and gaining muscle at the same time. Now, because, you don't always get to have a big calorie deficit or eat at a calorie surplus, which most people need for to build muscle. This is not going to be an optimal thing, but then through using some of the tips I'm going to give you, provided by the research, because this is research-based or evidence-based, some of the tips, using them to work with how the body works, you're going to make this a whole lot easier. So the big thing about this is most people don't understand how this can be used, or even understand that it should be used in some cases, because for most people, it's about weight loss or weight gain. So they're either eating in a big calorie deficit, which is a calorie deficit is when you eat calories below what it takes to maintain your body. Okay. And there's two ways to create a deficit. Of course, you can always eat less or exercise more. So you always have those choices. It doesn't always have to be eat less. You can always up your amount of exercise, which, sometimes I'll do that through the planning of the training. So people don't have to always end on very, very low calories. Or it's gaining muscle through eating in a calorie surplus, which is more calories than maintenance, which if some people, they eat in very big surpluses because they don't measure calories. So let's just say their maintenance was 3,000 calories. What they'll do is they'll do it in 4,000 calories, trying to gain weight instead of focusing on gaining muscle. And when you put the focus more on gaining muscle without gaining fat, you do it with smaller calorie surpluses. But in this case, we're going to use some of the tips provided by research that give us information on how the body uses nutrition and responds to training to help you get what you want, okay? We're going to be focusing more on changing our body composition because, again, you're going to be gaining muscle and burning fat. So you'll also want to make sure that you're not just going to rely on the scale, because sometimes, your weight might not change, but the way you look does. So that's a win, because at the end of the day, we're still trying to look better. The end game is looking better. So it's not just about a number on the scale. And for some people, that's what it's going to be. So you want to make sure you get your pictures lined up, and make sure that you're getting your measurements and getting your body fat. And you make sure you're using that. You make sure you're getting that and you're using that to help you gauge your progress. Because again, you're not going to be able to use a scale if body recompositioning is your primary goal. You're going to need some other ways to gauge progress so you don't miss any potential victories. Body recompositioning seems to be more a factor of nutrition, okay? And that degree is true because through nutrition, you provide your body the fuel that it needs to either build muscle or build fat, or create more fat cells, or you eat less, and that allows your body to in turn hopefully eat your fat cells up. I do with what I know about training, my experiences with training is also about the training, because most people have a thing. So if they believe everything is about sets of 10 or 8 or 20 or whatever, they stick with that thing to infinity instead of looking at how types of training or rep ranges or whatever may provide them with the results that they're looking for. Like, for example, with building muscle, you got two ways to build muscle. You can do it through mechanical tension, which would be using heavier weights, having nice slow negatives, maybe having big stretches on the muscle and things like that. Okay. That's best achieved with rep ranges between 6 and 12, higher or moderate types of amount of rest, or you can do that through metabolic stress, increasing metabolic stress. So that would be when you are using lighter weights. Doesn't have to be light, can be lighter weights, or shorter rest periods, or sometimes you're increasing the density of a workout when you're using supersets and trisets and giant sets and things like that, where multiple exercises are put together back to back to back, to basically it helps create a muscle pump, but it also gives you more muscle damage because you don't have the time, you don't allow your body the time to let oxygen get into the working muscles and allow the muscle chemistry to be optimal for you to perform your next set. Okay, so you can use both, but what happens is most people will stick to one, and this is it. So if they use pump reps, they're going to stick with that to infinity. And if they use, if they use the heavier weights and things like that, complete rest and all that, they're going to stick to. I believe in making sure you get the best of both, because, for example, the metabolic stress stuff can also be great for your fat loss. Okay, the using the heavier weights and the mechanical tension and the tension stuff could be great for making you stronger, which when you go back to metabolic stress, you're lifting heavier weights and now you're creating a better situation for your fat loss. So they kind of complement each other in a way, on top of just the build of muscle. So you should really use them both. And I'm working on an app where I'm having these type of programs to set up a body recompositioning deal. So if you're interested in that, comment, send me that info below. Cardio is going to be important when you try to do a recompositioning thing. Okay, your cardio. Now I'm usually I lean more toward HIIT workouts, where you're doing the high intensity work and you're burning a high amount of calories in a short time, and then also you produce fat burning hormones, which will help facilitate more weight loss outside of the calories that you burn during the workout. But I also see value in doing the long, slow, continuous, the regular aerobic cardio. And the reason being is you can only perform so much HIIT, before it starts to wear on your body or alter your recovery. So I'll probably have HIIT up to 2 days a week, and then two or 3 days a week of long, slow, continuous cardio. And the reason being is, if you can improve your cardio, you can recover faster or work better under shorter rest periods or more dense workouts where you get a lot of work done in a short period of time. Okay, if you can set yourself up to perform better using that for your fat loss, that's going to work to your advantage, because you can get more work done under those conditions. And if you get more work done, you burn more calories. You burn more calories, you create more fat loss. If you work longer or harder or with a higher workload, you break up more muscle tissue. And by breaking up more muscle tissue, you can build more muscle. You create the need to build more muscle. And remember, the body doesn't give you anything that you're not going to work for. You have to force it to change. It's not going to give that to you. So that's going to be very important. Also, using progressive overload properly is going to be helpful on this, because, again, people seem to keep everything the same. And like I mentioned earlier, you're going to have to give your body a reason to change. So, and progressive overload, it literally, when you break it down, it's adding more weight as time progresses, All right, adding overload as time progresses, but in exercise science, it's more of a concept. It's finding different ways or doing different things to your workouts to force your body to adapt. Okay, so for example, okay, intensity is always lifting more weight. You know, you can always lift more weight, and that's what most people focus on. It's not just that. You can perform more volume. So for example, if you do 3 sets of 10, doing 5 sets of 10 is more volume. Okay, 3 sets of 15 to 20 is more volume than 3 sets of 10, because at the appropriate weight, it's a higher workload. Okay, but there's a limit to how much volume you can handle. So think about that. All right, tempo or time under tension. You can lift slower. If you lift slower, if your goals are fat loss or building muscle, lifting slower, make muscles work harder, you know, can create the need for you to build more muscle or burn more calories, because your sets are lasting longer, and you have to put up more effort to lift that weight slow than you do lift that weight fast. Okay, doing supersets and trisets for the same muscle group is also kind of like a way of more time under tension, because if you bench press and then you go to incline bench press and then you go to flies, you know, if you don't take a full rest period, if you just only go as fast as you can, or take as long as it takes to get to the next exercise, you know, that will be increasing time under tension. Okay, so that's another way you can shorten the rest periods. If you shorten the rest periods, those muscles have to work harder to recover. Okay, so I can go on with that. I have videos on progressive overload. If you want to see them, I do have a playlist, but if you can't find the playlist, say, hey, send me them overload videos. Comment, send me them overload videos, or even send me a message from this. Send me them overload videos, okay? And that I go more into detail. If I do here, it'll take too long. This video will be too long. Okay, so for body recomp, nutrition is going to be important. So part of the thing is you're going to have to work at balancing your macronutrients. So when people typically, when they try to build muscle, they just try to throw a whole bunch of carbs and fat in there and a whole bunch of calories, and that results in them getting fat. Okay, we can't have that. If you have a higher body fat, of course, you're not going to have the tolerance for carbs that someone with lower body fat has. So you may need to raise your proteins or raise your fats. Okay, now when you look at the studies of body recomposition, you know that all of those studies where it was successful, the test subjects had from 1 gram to 1.5, I think it's up to 2 grams, but most of them were 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. So that means a 200-pound person has between 200 and 300 grams of protein per day. Now, in certain instances, if you have a really high body fat and a really high BMI, which means you're overweight and over fat, because they're not the same thing. You may be able to start at 1 gram per pound of lean body mass, but either way that it goes, through the process of trying to get that recomposition on, you're going to want to raise that, because when you look at the studies, when people were eating in calorie deficits, if their proteins were high enough, they were still able to drop body fat. So that protein intake between 1 gram per pound and 1 gram per pound, or 1.5 grams per pound, or if you had very high body fat, I'd probably say well over 30, your BMI well over 30, and you have a high body fat that falls into the obese category, you can use 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. But again, I would probably take 2 months at a time. Here's a strategy. You take 2 months at a time. You start at the gram per pound of body weight or lean body mass, depends what scenario you fall in. Okay, then maybe you go for 2 months on that. You collect your results, recalculate your deals there, hit your protein for 1.25 grams per pound. Okay, you go through that, readjust your macros and all that, come in, get your body fat, go again, and then you raise it. You can raise it to 1.5, or you can go another step, 1.4 and then 1.5. Okay, and as you go that, you'll be able to get some results, but they're not always going from the extreme of 1 gram per pound, which is a struggle for a lot of people, going to 1.5 grams per pound. So that could be a strategy for your protein, but you're gonna recalculate your macros. Okay. Of course, you're going to want carbs in this, right? But the thing with the carbs is you can't have too many. You can't have more than you handle. So, and what I would do is I would usually put them around your workout. So I would have the carbs after your workout because you don't need your insulin to push them around. So that helps keep you from getting fat. Okay, so right before your workout and right after your workout, and you'll see how it is in the example there, how I set it up in the example. In your recompositioning, the foods you choose are going to play a big role, but you got to walk a fine line, because usually when people come in, they think about weight loss and being healthy and things like that, and it's like, okay, no processed foods, no foods that don't grow on a tree, stuff like that. But then at the same time, it's not just about removing all calories from your diet, or as many as possible, right? So there's a fine line that you have to walk. You may need to eat foods that aren't like that to get into there. So, because you have to feel the calorie intake, you need to feel the protein intake, the fats and things like that. So, so I allow foods like rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes, okay? And you can eat what you need to eat, but you have to stay within the, it has to fit your macros. You can't go over on your carbs or your protein or your fats or whatever. You have to stay precisely in your box. So while I understand, people who need the whole food thing, only whole foods, there's a middle ground and there's a gray area that fits. So I would suggest that too, and you're going to see that in my examples later. So keep that in mind. So everything's not going to be, there's a lot of healthy foods in there, but some of that will be starches. And starches aren't necessarily the devil. It's just that they taste good to us. We like them, and we can eat a whole lot of them. So it's easy for us to go over our calorie intake for them. So if you can't keep away from them, you got to cut it. You got to cut that out. I mean, if you can't keep that in balance, you got to cut it out. But if you're a recompositioning person, you have a great handle on things, or you're going to need to get a great handle on things, and you're going to be disciplined to only eat enough and to not go crazy with things. Your nutrient timing and all that, that's going to play a large role also, because remember, when you're working out, you're breaking down muscle tissue. Okay, you're breaking down muscle tissue, you're using fuel, you're using up fuel, and as you use up your fuel, of course, you're going to break down more muscle tissue, not just due to the lifting, but to provide fuel. So that's where your pre, intra, and post-workout nutrition comes in and plays a role, okay? And of course, there's a scenario. I won't go too much into this because I have a video on this, and I'll put that below, but I'll put that in the description on the YouTube. Once you need to, after the workout, you flip the switch to muscle protein breakdown. And if you do the right things, like if you take care of your post-workout nutrition by having a protein drink right after your workout, okay, you flip that switch to muscle protein synthesis, which is building muscle, okay? Or you can have intra-workout nutrition, which would be drinking EAAs or BCAAs during your workout, all right? Some people take it a step further, like I do all three, but some people will have a pre-workout, and their pre-workout isn't just a caffeine fix or something like that. It'll have branched chain amino acids or essential amino acids, and they'll be in there. And if you take these, your body will, they'll get around digestion because they're not just whole intact foods. Because I knew guys that said they could just eat a bowl of cereal during the workouts. I imagine that didn't go too well, or didn't go too well for their clients, but that's whole food. So even though you chew it and you break it down, it still has to be liquefied to go through your digestive system so you can use for energy. So and then at the other time, you'll be taking oxygen through blood, because the blood will have to go to your stomach to carry those nutrients out. Not so much the case when you use amino acids, okay? Because amino acids are already breaking down, and they just fall to the bottom and go through the liquid, and they're available for energy. So that's why I like using amino acid drinks pre-workout, intra-workout. Then I just do a hydrolyzed whey protein mixed with a casein post-workout, because the hydrolyzed protein gets through the system faster, and it flips that switch from muscle protein breakdown to muscle protein synthesis. But at the same time, that casein is a slower breaking down protein, so it keeps your window, that time that you're switched to muscle protein synthesis, it prolongs that, because that protein takes much longer through your system to break down. Now, if you don't get at least a gram per pound of protein in, none of that matters. Okay, so, but then again, if you're on a body recomp program and you're really trying to get those goals through body recomp, you're going to make that happen. And again, I'll provide examples later in the video. The easiest, fastest, easiest way for me to set this up for clients and stuff like that is I get the history and I see what they've been doing, and I expose them to something different to what they've been doing. And how do I use progressive overload to do that? Either if it's a workload and it's the easiest way is just to increase their volume, I'll increase their volume. I can switch them from the mechanical tension way of building muscle, and to the metabolic stress way of building muscle. I can mix some metabolic stress in with their mechanical tension and increase their workout volume. Supersets, drop sets, all that. So I have programs with that. If you guys ask, if I get enough comments, I'll put a sample program below for 2 scenarios. But I'll leave that for the app there. The resistance training is going to play a big role. And remember, the body, it has to be forced to give you the adaptations you want. So you can't just do the same old and get the results, make your body build more muscle or, give you more results. You're going to have to change something. You're going to have to improve something. You're going to have to enhance something. So that's something that you want to keep in mind with your body recompositioning resistance training. You have to step up. You have to level up. It's all about going up and up and up and up for the body to give you what you want. Okay, so in both examples, I go through the first step. What's the first step is you get their weight and you get their body fat. So I just took averages here. So I got the woman is 170 pounds, 169 plus, 169.6, something like that, at 30% body fat. So we got that 30% body fat. I figured out her calories is somewhere around 2,600, 2,550, 2,600. What I did was, because her body fat is high and her weight is high, I gave her a large deficit to start with, okay? This would be different. I would give her a small deficit, which I will use in phase 2 of this. But anyway, as I'm saying here, I did the same for the guy. The guy's average body fat, I believe, was, I think I calculated it at 22%. Okay, so it's 100. He's 200 pounds at 22% body fat, and I'll put the stats for both of them here. And so his calories were a little bit higher. I also gave him a 30% deficit. Sorry, 25% deficit. Both of those are 25. I also gave him a 25% deficit, 25% calorie deficit. So his calories are sitting right around 2,500-ish, okay? But I want you guys to pay close attention to the protein intake that I have them at. I have them the woman is slightly higher than a gram per pound, and so is the guy, okay? Because remember, for the body recompositioning effect, right, you need to be at least at 1 gram per pound of body weight for protein. Less, and it didn't happen, okay? Because we want, at least worst case scenario, just hold on to the muscle and drop the body fat. So we need to have that protein intake high enough. So going on to the second phase, what I do in cases like this is I would start raising the protein. So let's say I can go from 1 gram per pound to a 1.5 or 2 grams per pound. Let's say 1.5 grams per pound. So I can say phase 1, gram per pound. Phase 2, I can say maybe 1.25 grams or 1.2 grams per pound. Then phase 3 might be 1.35 grams per pound. And then if I need another phase, like that. So you always have somewhere to go if you stay on this recompositioning journey.